Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. For those of you, there's a lot of buzz in the room. This is always a good thing. Lots of interest in this event. You're very welcome, but if you wouldn't mind taking a seat, we're going to get started. We have quite a tight program, and we want to make sure that at least two of our panelists are able to deliver their interventions before having to depart. Those at the back, you're welcome to come in and take a seat. Okay, well, welcome to all of you, a warm welcome. Thank you for being here, and thank you for spending time to participate in this discussion on Rohingya refugees, enhancing resilience and enhancing solutions. We're building now, and some of you were involved with this directly, on a high-level event that took place in October in Bangkok. I should probably introduce myself before we launch right into it. I'm Kelly Clements. I'm the Deputy High Commissioner at UNHCR, the UN Refugee Agency. And this particular topic is one that is very important to me personally. This was an operation that I started my career on about 30 years ago and spent some time in Bangladesh at that moment. So I'm very pleased and very honored to be your moderator today.
Deja vu.
Exactly, deja vu. So there was a high-level event in October that some of you were directly participated in when states, the UN, civil society, local organizations, and refugees, of course, themselves participated to reaffirm the importance of a comprehensive approach to solutions and sustained support for Rohingya refugees. I had an opportunity to go back to Cox's Bazar earlier this year in May, and saw firsthand, of course, the immense needs and the immense potential and opportunities to invest in refugee potential. Skills, talents, and their ability to contribute to their communities was manifest in every conversation, in every engagement that we had at that time. We see that today. So this session and the announcement of commitments to a multi-stakeholder pledge are an expression of our sustained efforts to last obviously well beyond these 3 days of this forum. This is really to take forward starting Saturday, if not Saturday, then next week. So we have about 90 minutes. It will consist of a panel discussion. You see the distinguished representatives of that panel next to me. I'll introduce them in a moment. We have a tight time frame, so if you see me kind of fidgeting a little bit at the end of the table, you'll know why. I might even tap my microphone, but hopefully I don't have to do that. We'll have some floor interventions, and that list has been set, and thank you for those of you that will speak later. If there were individuals that had wanted to say something but didn't register, my colleague Charlie Goodlake is available to make sure your delegation is registered. We won't have time for questions and answers in this session, unfortunately. It's not long enough, but the dialogue continues, and you know that we are available anytime to continue that dialogue and engage. So it is my distinct honor and pleasure to introduce His Excellency Masood bin Momen, who is the Foreign Secretary of Bangladesh since late 2019, and previously was the ambassador and permanent representative to the United Nations in New York and ambassador to Japan and Italy. And I'm very grateful to Ambassador Momen to be able to join us today because he will literally dash after his remarks to catch a flight. So we appreciate that. Minister of Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship of Canada, Mark Miller. Minister Miller has also served as the Minister of Indigenous Services and Minister of Crown Indigenous Relations for Canada. And Assistant Secretary of State for the Bureau of Population, Refugees and Migration of the United States, Juliette Valls-Noyes. Assistant Secretary Noyes is a career member of the Senior Foreign Service in the United States government and has held a number of posts, including Deputy Director and Acting Director of the Foreign Service Institute, Ambassador to the Republic of Croatia. Very close partner of UNHCR, and we're very delighted that you two can join. Next is Beth Delaney, Humanitarian Coordinator and First Assistant Secretary of the Humanitarian Division of the Australian Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade. Ms. Delaney is also DFAT's champion for the protection and prevention of sexual exploitation, abuse, and harassment, a subject that's very close to my heart as well. A particularly warm welcome to Ms. Hafsar Tamis Sudin, who is the Co-Secretary General of the Asia Pacific Refugee Rights Network, otherwise known as APRIN. She previously served as the chair of APRIN and is one of the co-founders of the Rohingya Women's Collaborative Network as well. And finally, I'm pleased to introduce Ms. Judith Herbertson, who is the Deputy Director of the UK's United Kingdom's Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office and Head of Girls Education Department. Previously, she was the UK's Development Director in Bangladesh, so has deep experience. So I would like to start with Ambassador Momen, Foreign Secretary. Thank you again for your commitment and your time. We know well that Bangladesh continues to generously host nearly 1 million Rohingya refugees and has done so for many years, as we just remarked. This was after the largest number of Rohingya coming in 2017. When I visited the camps in Cox's Bazar, we could feel a lot of anxiety on the part of refugees about the potential cuts to food. And in fact, at that time, the decision was made for the second cut to a very, very low figure, $8 per person per month. Overall, a steady decline in humanitarian funding towards the Rohingya situation, given and in comparison to years past. And of course, we have other crises that have unfolded with record displacement across the planet. This makes the Rohingya multi-stakeholder pledge and focus on sustainable solutions more important than ever. So the question to you, Ambassador Momen, is, of course, easing the pressure on host countries like Bangladesh is one of the core pillars of the Global Compact on Refugees. Could you tell us, as a significant host country, how can the international community, those here in the room and those that are watching live stream, how can we help strengthen responsibility and burden sharing? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Moderator, for your introduction and also putting things into the right context. My distinguished co-panelists and participants, a very good afternoon to you all. I would like to highlight that the ground realities in the refugee hosting countries have to be taken into account while undertaking interventions. And we should all keep in mind that the same size does not fit all. Our situation is different from other refugee hosting countries. Despite numerous constraints, Bangladesh has been sheltering around over 1.1 million forcibly displaced Myanmar nationals or Rohingyas for more than 6 years now on purely humanitarian grounds. And soon after the forced displacement of the Rohingyas into Bangladesh, the host community initially responded to the call of humanity, even before the international community stepped in. By this time, the situation has changed a lot, after 6 years plus. Already the Rohingyas have outnumbered the host community population manifold, creating not only just demographic imbalance, but also other unease or tension, as you also mentioned. Around 30,000 newborns are being added to the total number of Rohingyas in Bangladesh every year. Bangladesh is one of the most densely populated and climate vulnerable countries. More than 500,000 people are uprooted every year from their homes, and their livelihood opportunities are lost due to erratic climate change, river erosion, and the like. Ensuring their early sustainable repatriation, therefore, of course, in safety and dignity, for us is the best pathway to reduce the burden on not only the host community, but also over the Bangladesh population. And in line with the recommendation of the Global Compact on Refugees, or GCR, to improve the situation in the refugee sending country for their eventual return, we feel that all stakeholders should scale up support in improving the conditions in the Rakhine state. So I therefore urge the international community to help us in this regard, whatever leverage they have over the regime in Myanmar. Programs and projects can be undertaken in the Rohingya camps in Bangladesh should complement the repatriation efforts. The global community needs to be meaningfully engaged with Myanmar authorities and provide required humanitarian support in Rakhine State to facilitate sustainable return and reintegration of the forcibly displaced Rohingyas. Regional bodies like ASEAN or AHA Center and other neighboring and friendly countries of Myanmar can also play a proactive role in this regard. We are working bilaterally, regionally, multilaterally to commence a safe, voluntary, and sustainable repatriation. And efforts for early commencement of repatriation under a trilateral initiative is currently undergoing. We seek support from everyone to make it successful. Stalemate in repatriation process will deteriorate the security situation in the camp area and increase the vulnerability of the host community and the Rohingyas. It will also have regional implications as well. We have seen some boats recently going over to Indonesia, crossing the Andaman Sea, and it's a disaster in terms of humanitarian efforts. Of course, it is done by traffickers and other racketeers. With a newer crisis evolving around the globe, the distressed Rohingyas should not be forgotten. So that is another message we would like to make from this forum. I deeply appreciate UNHCR's ongoing initiatives, and thank you and all your colleagues in Dhaka and Bangkok and also the headquarters for continuous engagements and initiatives, especially the recently held meeting that you referred in November in Bangkok. The basic needs of the Rohingyas should be met by the international community till they return to a better and safer future in their homeland. I thank the US government for their recent or most recent announcement to provide additional 87 million US dollars for Rohingya and the host communities to support the critical needs, including food and nutrition. As you mentioned, the food entitlement came down from 12 to 10 to $8 per person per month, so which is quite a distressful thing. The US is, of course, the leading contributor with has provided more than 2.4 billion US dollars since August 27. Therefore, we urge other partners and other contributors to also follow the lead of US. I call upon in the international community to deliver on their pledges that were already made. I also urge the humanitarian partners to prioritize sectors covering the basic necessities like food and health. In addition, duplication of funding in projects should be rationalized, and better accountability, transparency, and also efficiency should be ensured. The financial support for the Rohingyas should not impose any additional burden on Bangladesh. So taking loans for Rohingyas cannot be a viable option. They are, after all, not our citizens. Therefore, any loan to be repaid by our taxpayers is politically sensitive. You can all understand that. However, Bangladesh has proposed to the World Bank for using banks' fund from the window for host communities and refugees, so that half of the loan amount can be utilized for the host community. Mitigation of the sufferings of the host community should be considered in the true spirit of burden sharing. I would request development partners to buy down if any loan is taken for the host community as they did earlier. The international community is supporting the various learning activities of the Rohingya children following the Myanmar curriculum, besides different skill development programs. These would enable them to practice their distinct ethnic identity and facilitate reintegration in Myanmar once they return. Their inclusion under the national curriculum of Bangladesh will increase the burden of the host community. The international community should take skill development initiatives for the impacted local community in line with their different needs and priorities. Rohingyas are working as volunteers, running shops, homestead gardening, and handicrafts inside the camps. And these activities are more visible in Bhashan Chor. Creating livelihood scopes for the Rohingyas out of the camps in Cox's Bazar will further shrink job market for the host community and can sort of incite tension and conflicts. And therefore, Bhashan Chor with ample free space, with no local or host community with better amenities and have the scope to experiment such livelihood. I see the BRAC representative here, and BRAC has done a miracle in Bhashan Chor. I personally visited, and many of my colleagues who have visited, they will give testament to that. So there is much more scope to do there. Therefore, we feel that the international community, already some of the development partners have started their operations, should come forward to further improve the facilities in Bhashan Chor and join in creating various livelihood options. The Japanese company Uniqlo also started something there. So maybe we can further scale it up. The Rohingya exodus in Bangladesh has adversely impacted the biodiversity of Cox's Bazar, in particular 6,800 acres of reserved forests where the Rohingyas are now sheltered. Deforestation, soil erosion, water pollution, excessive use of groundwater, use of plastic materials are among some of the environmental problems created due to the high concentration of the Rohingyas in the camps. Therefore, climate action to address those adverse impacts should be prioritized by the international community. Therefore, before concluding, I would like to again express my gratitude to our development partners for being with us and also not, deprioritize the Rohingya issue in the face of so many crises in the world. So just be with us, be with the Rohingyas, and also help us in repatriating the Rohingyas in safety and security back to Rakhine province. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Momin. And I think you have a, applause. Well deserved. You have a room of supporters here. And I think our effort is then, of course, to take this even beyond this room and beyond this pledge. Thanks for reminding us of the need for political support, including in the region, and the fact that you see the desperation resulting in boat departures now, of course, is worrying. And the potential, obviously, to further upscale some of the livelihoods activities that have been quite well received and could upscale. So we're going to do a little bit of musical chairs. I think soon you'll leave and we'll have the ambassador permanent representative here. We're going to show a video now before we turn to you, Minister Miller.
Ako sulit din ako do digil ay dito din la contact gori asa ay munti to din la contact gori goji dito din bitana bala gori gotri sari gori ako mo hundur hakada gori hed mule asa gori. How I get to the Philippines is that if it's through the complementary pathway program that's through by a scholarship and by the support of UNHCR and by the support of government of the Philippines.
I training godi 3 মাস training করার পরে production worker মাঝে হাজ করি 2 মাস ধরে ইনজয় ফার্মার আর বাচ্চারে আগে হলো আই বালা হাত দেখা বানি পাইতাম এখন আই ইনজয় প্রোগ্রাম production worker মাঝে জান হাজ করি নিলেরে জেন টিয়া ভাই লয় বালা হাত দেখা ভাই সারি মাছ মাংস গোস্ত মানে আই আন কি করি চাকরি আন এডে করি আজ জীবনত দক্ষতায় বাজে মানে আই অল্প কিছু দিন না জানতাম আমি 10 রুমত ঢুকি ওরে মানে অল্প শিখি আই
I feel I am really a lucky person. I got a job, a stable job here. It's really stable to look after my children, to stay with my families.
So I'm right now focusing to learn more and more because it's now As I'm doing interpreting, it's very important for me to learn and improve the languages. Also, sometimes the incomes help me to pay rent, even if half or not. So I'm happy with this.
তো ইয়ান নিজের কুমত দামি দিয়ে ইয়ান এলম কেল্লা জরুল দিয়ে ইয়ান আজ যদি আর তো যদি এলম না তাইতো আজ ইয়া হত ধরনের মানুষের দলে আতি বাস গাছ হাড়ি হাফ হইতো দিলে হস্তবিষ্ট করে হাফ হইতো দুঃখ করে হাফ হইতো।
My dreams to be a computer scientist actually, and also my dreams to be a great son to my parents and to my community as well. I really wanted to contribute to my community maybe after I graduate.
क्योंकि यहाँ पे भी इतना वो इजी नहीं है रहना, क्योंकि हमारा पास घर नहीं है, कुछ भी नहीं है। यहाँ पे सब कुछ अपने कमाई के ऊपर से देना पड़ता है, रहन खाना पीना सब कुछ, बिजली सब कुछ। यही पैसा से ही हम जैसे भी है मैनेज करके ये बच्चे लोग को पढ़ाया, यहाँ पे जी रहे हैं।
তো আর হদন যখন রোহিঙ্গা কমিউনিটি দেশ একখান ফেলা যখন আর দেশত আগিয়ে গই তো আর তুমি বেশি দর হার আসছিল যখন আর বর্মা সরকার যখন আরে হলে সেটা মানসিক যদি লাইফ এবল বাঁচে থাকি তো মনে হলে এডুকেশন হদিয়ান একখান আর নিজর দাঁড়ার হাত দিয়ে দিলে অজ্ঞ মানুষের তিন দিলে তখন চা
আর স্বপ্ন বলতে মানে এই দেশ আমার স্বাধীন করে চলতে চায়, মানে ঘর বাড়ি সুন্দর করি ওরে মানে ফুড করায় নিজের স্বাধীন মতো মানে হয় কে বাধা দিন না পারে বান।
আর হাসে গড়ের মানে হদ্দে আনন্দ গেলে শান্তি তখন একজনের দুঃখ হতে একজনের বোঝাই ফেরন নিজের বাপ মালের সুখ শান্তি করে তাই ফেরন।
It's very easy in Indonesia. The Indonesian government also accept us. So, and also UN support the Rohingya people for the study, for work, or even for the resettlement.
I don't know yet actually where I would be in the future, but 100% confirmly that I can say that I think I would be with my parents wherever they are. No matter they would be, for example, now they are in Malaysia. If they would be in another country, so I would be with them there. No matter wherever they are, I would be with them. That's my dream.
November 2012, I went to Bangladesh and I stayed there for 5 months. I waited there for 5 months because I was trying to return to Myanmar again. I thought it will become peaceful in 5 months. So I didn't find any improvement. So that's why I came to India to seek the asylum, and then I am now living in Delhi with my family.
আর দেশের মাঝে হন্দ অনুযায়ী বর্মাত ফিরে জনগণে আই বাংলাদেশের মাঝে হানা না হাইরে আর লাইফ সিকিউরিটিটা বলে আবার নজরের বাদ কে ভাজি ইনশাআল্লাহ।
Thank you. Thank you for that, hearing directly from refugees in Bangladesh, India, Indonesia, and the Philippines. They've said it much better than any of us can say it. So let us turn, if we could please, to Minister Miller. Canada has strongly supported resilience and solutions for Rohingya for quite a long time, mix of financial aid, emergency response, and of course, resettlement. Minister Miller, if you could, and a commitment towards localization, could you talk a little bit further about how the international community can promote further localization, including in some of the context we just saw? Thank you.
Absolutely, I'll start in French. Donc, essentiel que nous poursuivions notre travail pour et avec les Rohingyas. Comme Kelly l'a mentionné, cette crise n'est pas prête de se résorber. Le Bangladesh s'est généreusement proposé naturellement comme pays d'accueil, mais même avec le soutien de la communauté internationale, nous comprenons bien que les ressources s'amenuisent. Nous devons soutenir les besoins des Rohingyas, accueillis par le Bangladesh, l'Indonésie, la Malaisie et d'autres partenaires régionaux, tout en nous attaquant aux causes profondes de cette crise. I'll switch back into English. We need a continued focus, obviously, on women and girls' health, education, livelihoods, and human security. We must address the root causes of these crises, which I mentioned in French, which are being repeated and at risk of being perpetuated. Recognizing that conditions in Myanmar do not permit Rohingya refugees safe and sustainable repatriation. We also need a commitment to explore resettlement options, which Canada is doing. Building on our $300 million strategy, Canada renewed its commitment in 2021 with a $288 million second phase to respond to the interconnected Rohingya and Myanmar crises. Of this latest commitment, $145 million helps support the needs of Rohingya refugees and host communities in Bangladesh to help them live in dignity foremost and with hope. So one of the recommendations is more money. Canada remains determined to pursue accountability as well for the perpetrators of serious human rights violations in Myanmar and deliver justice for Rohingya survivors. And such, we're proud to contribute to the multi-stakeholder pledge with and for Rohingya refugees. We must stay the course to advance solutions for and with the Rohingya people. I would say that this commitment comes not only from Canada's international humanitarian obligation, but the important point made to us by Bangladesh Canadian community members and diaspora of the Muslim faith generally, that we, as Western countries, Canada in this case, must react in a more even and fair way to crises around the world in a way we haven't done in the past. We can't overstate the importance of including local voices, as Kelly mentioned, with expertise and engagement within the refugee response to optimize the reach, effectiveness, and the efficiency of the aid. Local and national actors have established networks, natural ones, a cultural understanding to identify and understand immediate needs. For example, Bangladeshi national and local NGOs and their responders have played a prominent role in the Rohingya refugee response since the onset of the crisis in 2017, operating across programs, clusters, and other sectors to ensure aid reaches to people in need. Localization thus emerges as a critical strategy to enable rapid, effective, and targeted international assistance for the refugee response. In advancing these efforts, Canada has contributed a little over $10.5 million to establish first of its kind pooled funds for localized humanitarian development as part of our generalized response. And as we grapple with the sheer magnitude of this forced displacement crisis, it continues to worsen throughout the region. With limited opportunities to develop self-reliance and little prospect of durable solutions, Rohingya are increasingly risking their lives in search of solutions, and very desperately so, including the treacherous journeys across the region, at times tragically resulting in death. The need for long-term solutions in addressing these causes is undisputable. These efforts, where communities are actively involved in a decision-making process relating to their own recovery, lays the groundwork for the resilience that we are all speaking about today. This is about leveraging strengths, working towards creative partnerships, and meeting basic needs by empowering self-reliance. Longer term, we must also drive forward the role of Rohingya organizations and voices themselves in shaping and leading this response, as we saw in the compelling role that one of the Nansen winners last night were documenting so passionately. In closing, I do want to reiterate that Canada will not forget the Rohingya people. We urge others, including those of you here today, to make the same commitment. We will not move on. We will not step away. We need to stay the course to advance solutions with and for the Rohingya people. Je vous remercie. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister, especially by putting your money where your mouth is on localized funds and the pooled fund concept. We appreciate that very much. Thank you, Foreign Secretary. Thank you. Okay, I'd like to turn now to the Assistant Secretary. You just heard from the Foreign Secretary talk about the United States being the #1 supporter of the Rohingya situation. We appreciate that very much. The global and at the country level, it goes well beyond resources. It's also advocacy for solutions, advocacy for resilience. And you've also just really stepped up your support for resettlement in the region, but as well in Bangladesh. Part of the multi-stakeholder pledge is connecting resilience with solutions. So we wonder if you can tell us a little bit about how resilience-focused pledges help to promote durable solutions. Over to you.
Thanks, Kelly, and I'm honored to be on this important panel and to see Foreign Secretary Momin and Minister Miller. And it's a pleasure to be here to talk about the issues before us. At the launch of the Joint Response Plan for the Rohingya humanitarian crisis earlier this year, I stressed the need for an urgent, bold, and collective action to make sure that we live up to the commitment that we made nearly 7 years ago to keep the Rohingya safe, to provide humanitarian assistance, and to pursue lasting solutions to ease their plight. And that's why I am so grateful to UNHCR for prioritizing the response during the Global Refugee Forum and convening us to talk about how we can harness the power and the resources of our governments and our organizations and our advocacy on behalf of this vulnerable population. But we ultimately do know that the solution to this crisis lies in Burma, in Myanmar. That's why the United States continues to work towards an inclusive and democratic future for Burma that respects the rights of all, including Rohingya. It's why we continue to pursue justice for the victims of the genocide and accountability for those who orchestrated and perpetrated crimes against humanity and ethnic cleansing. But even as we endeavor to create conditions that would enable voluntary, safe, dignified, sustainable returns, we know those conditions continue to deteriorate. So we're especially concerned, as the minister said, about the constant threats to health, well-being, and safety of the Rohingya that have led them to undertake negative coping mechanisms like the sea journeys. And in this regard, I want to say that we're deeply concerned right now about the fate of 400 Rohingya who are currently adrift in the Andaman Sea, and we appeal to countries in the region to please assist these boats in distress and allow the refugees to safely disembark. These are not challenges that any one country can face alone. We have to meet the urgent humanitarian needs of Rohingya refugees and the host communities. We also have to keep an eye on the future and work toward solutions and to support Rohingya refugees in achieving self-reliance and resilience. Getting to your question, Kelly, to the resilience question. I don't see these as separate challenges, but they're rather two sides of the same coin. The United States has played a leading role in this response from the outset, contributing nearly $2.4 billion in humanitarian assistance for the Rohingya response since 2017. And I am pleased to say that this week, we announced an additional $87 million in funding that, together with contributions from other donors, will enable the World Food Program to raise food rations for the nearly 1 million Rohingya refugees in Bangladesh, as well as to support the nutrition of refugees and impacted host communities. So we're grateful for other donors' continued solidarity with Rohingya. And we encourage new and existing donors to dig deep and provide more funding because we collectively need to ensure adequate funding for this response to help stave off dire food insecurity. But as you mentioned, resettlement is another important way in which we demonstrate shared responsibility and to contribute to the resilience and comprehensive solutions to the plight of Rohingya. So this is a critical, durable solution that provides an opportunity for refugees to pursue a life of safety and dignity without fear of persecution in welcoming communities across the United States. And at the same time, our country benefits from the contributions that they make. We have in the United States resettled more than 13,000 Rohingya from the region since 2010, primarily from Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, and now Bangladesh. And we look forward to welcoming many more in the coming years. Let me give you a couple of examples of how Rohingya refugees have integrated into their new community in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. One Rohingya refugee who arrived in 2015 is a certified interpreter, like the one in the video, a certified interpreter with the Milwaukee County Court System. He is a landlord and the founder of a nonprofit organization that supports new Burmese and Rohingya refugee arrivals. Another single Rohingya mom who arrived in 2013 owns a food truck. It's called Taste Amir's Roti, as well as an Asian grocery store with her mom. And these contributions help ensure that Milwaukee has a thriving economy and one that benefits from the cultural and culinary heritage of the refugees. So the United States will continue to lead by example, both through our humanitarian assistance and by our resettlement, and through the following pledges. We pledge to increase the resettlement of Rohingya in the United States. We pledge to work with other countries to expand resettlement and complementary pathways for Rohingya. We pledge to focus on Rohingya refugees seeking access to employment in the United States through our new Welcome Corps at Work program. We pledge to support efforts to expand skills and self-reliance of Rohingya and their host communities, as well as to bolster the efforts of international financial institutions to develop effective means of supporting Rohingya and strengthen humanitarian and development coherence in Rohingya refugee programs. We're grateful to the countries that have already committed to resettling Rohingya refugees. More of you need to step up, and those of you who are doing it, increase your numbers. We also encourage countries to seek complementary pathways for Rohingya. And at a time when competing global crises have, in fact, significantly impacted the international community's ability to meet Rohingya's basic needs, we call for expanding refugee self-reliance through education, skills development, and livelihoods as a way of increasing that self-reliance. I urge everyone here to think about how we can work together to build hope and resilience, whether it's expanding pathways for Rohingya to third countries, providing remote training programs that connect to work opportunities in other countries, offering skills and education certification, or allowing refugees to practice and earn money from their trades in their host countries. Let's approach this conversation together with continued openness, determination, empathy, and a shared sense of hope for a world where the Rohingya can live in peace, security, safety, and with dignity. Thank you.
That was a popular statement, Assistant Secretary. I think there was almost a spontaneous applause with the financial and other very important pledges. So thank you very much for that. Hafsar, we're going to turn to you for APRIN. And I think most of the people in the room will know what APRIN is, but it's a movement that works to build alliances and partnerships to advance refugee rights and address the needs of refugees and other people in need of protection. And you have some personal experience, obviously, being resettled in New Zealand, the role of civil societies and refugee-led organizations are very important to the response and especially the solutions. Can you talk a little bit more about how you have helped through APRIN and other ideas you have on how local organizations can help us find those solutions?
Thank you very much. Before I go to the solution bit, I just want to go back a little bit of assessment from my perspective. I'm sure many of you are very familiar with the Rohingya genocide and the issues of Rohingya, but I just want to revisit the very fact is that the operation of Rohingya did not start in 2012. The discrimination against Rohingya did not start in 2017. It has been there ongoing for many decades. Only the fact that the international community come into realization and giving us the attention, it was only 2012 and 2017. Also looking at maybe away from country, also growing up in a country without having the many rights that every citizens of the world should enjoy for 26 years, and also being displaced outside of Myanmar for about 15 years. And also as an advocate and activist myself, I've been observing one particular thing is that when we talk about Rohingya, there has been a very popular solution that we all talk about repatriation, which I agree. But then there has not been enough talk about resilience building and capacity building of the community. What is it this community bring to the host community? That bit is a bit imbalanced, as well as exploring too many other innovative solutions for Rohingyas, including durable solution. In that sense, to your question to what is the role of refugee-led organization and civil societies, now the language has slowly shifted and changed. Now looking into, okay, repatriation is there, but it's not going to happen very soon. Now we also have to look at other innovative solution, including resettlement and durable solution. And then also now inevitably we have seen how this refugee-led organization, refugee-led initiative has been always at the forefront whenever there is an emergency or natural disaster. In times of need, when INGOs and big organizations or state may face barriers to reach to the communities. So their roles is particularly really important. What has been missing in that space is that ensuring this refugee-led organization and refugee-led initiative in civil society has the platform to be the partner with other actors in this space. That is really essential. It is really important. If we're looking at the whole of society approach and multidimensional approach in addressing Rohingya issues, it is really important not to forget the very own community that we are serving and their inclusion and them being consulted and being informed of all the solutions that we are talking about. Then also looking at the demarcation that you have mentioned, rightfully, thank you so much for that plea. And there has been a lot of since 2020, where COVID started, and 2021, 2022, a lot of boat movement, and in line with COVID arise, and then a lot of xenophobia against Rohingya. There's a very sad things. Also, this should not be the kind of trends that we should encourage when and if there is any emergency happen, and then it is become a negative trend that we then target the most marginalized community to shift the resentment of the public and community. So it is very unfortunate that we have seen that in 2020 in Malaysia and also in some countries. And also I am really concerned that this may happen again, and looking at the recent response to the boat movement. With that, I really would like to encourage all of us to really think about, if we don't want Rohingya to move, if we want to prevent such boat movement, we need to address the root cause of such boat movement. The root cause lies within Myanmar. The root cause lies wherever Rohingyas are right now in the refugee camps, the deterioration situation of refugee camps, and safety and security and livelihood. As well, I also would like to really highlight and emphasize now, one of the things that we haven't really incorporated and practiced much is that, what is it that this community bring to the host community where they're living right now? There has been a report that I cannot remember at the top of my head, the contribution of refugee communities to the host community through labors and the skill that they bring. But without remembering the report, I can safely tell you that in many countries, refugees are contributing without or with having the rights to work. So there is a positive win-win situation that can happen if we then think about innovative solution of allowing these refugees to constructively contribute to the host community wherever they are right now. This is something that we need to really think about it and implement it. And I would highly, highly encourage to do the same. Also going back to the perception of refugees, including Rohingyas, always how Rohingyas has been described in social media, in the webpage. If you look at our photos and all that, is always interpret in such an incapable, vulnerable, burdensome community, but there is not enough portray of the resilience and the strength that this community bring along. And then their success story is not being shared enough. So that narrative has to change. As well as, if I may, I would highly encourage being mindful of the language that we use in this space. We have to be really careful of, I will encourage to use the language from burden to responsibility sharing. And I will encourage to see Rohingyas as the active agents of change instead of being the passive recipients of support and being burdensome. We are very capable. And also I want to mention the very fact is that I can guarantee you there is no one in this room more than Rohingya who would like to go home and have a life that we deserve. And I also want to reiterate the fact is that historically, we have seen over and over again, it is always, always the oppressed community themselves reclaim their rights. And we are willing to do so. We're here, but we cannot do this alone. We need all of you to stand in solidarity with us, to give us the means to do that.
Afsar, we have to
Okay,
Keep
but
moving.
I want to share one more minute about my story. So I would like to share a couple of success story of Rohingyas. If Rohingyas are given the means to contribute, one is mine. I have only resettled to New Zealand 4 years and a half ago. Before that, when I was a refugee in Malaysia, I have tirelessly advocated not only for Rohingyas, also many others for refugees. And with this position now as the Co-Secretary General of APREN, I continue to do so. Also, one good practice that I would like to also highlight is that one Rohingya women-led organization that we have recently formed, which I'm also one of the co-founder. We have created so much of impact within a couple of months. And I would like to call on this executive director of the co-founder here in this room with me, as well as one of the co-founder, Nur Aziza. Can you please stand up, please? Thank you. Your message. They are also the example of the success story. If the Rohingyas are given the means, how we can contribute not only to our own community, also to others. And we have many others who are not here in this room, in the United States, in Canada, in wherever they get resettled now, they're contributing in every possible way, you name it. So I also would like to mention that whenever we talk about repatriation, we really need to get Rohingya on board, including diaspora and the people from refugee camp Bangladesh, with the informed consents. And I would like to thank all of you to be here with us. Again, I am re-emphasizing the fact is that no one wants to go home more than us in this room. And we are willing to take the lead, but we need your support. Please be our allies and support. Thank you so much for your time here.
Hafsar, we could have spent the afternoon listening to you, really. Thank you very much for those words. But we do want to have time to hear some of the other pledges. So we're going to move very quickly to Assistant Secretary Delaney. Australia has been a strong supporter, both on the resettlement side, but also financial support to the operations related to the refugee crisis, the Rohingya crisis. Can you please describe a little bit about why the approach on regional partnership is so important?
Thank you very much, Deputy High Commissioner. Thanks very much for the opportunity to speak. Can I also just acknowledge and thank those Rohingya women in particular in the room who are here today and those who are unable to be here. I think Australia remains very concerned by the ongoing situation in Rakhine State and across Myanmar. We, of course, like others, commend the generosity of those countries and communities in the region that are hosting Rohingya. This includes Bangladesh, as well as Indonesia, India, Malaysia, and Thailand. We, of course, welcome the multi-stakeholder Rohingya Solutions Pledge as an opportunity for all of us to coordinate our efforts to find sustainable solutions and, of course, to build resilience of those active agents of change, I think that Hafsar has spoken about. Our view is that working collectively is the only way that we can address this crisis. We need to find sustainable solutions for all displaced Rohingya. As my US colleague has mentioned, achieving this actually requires the cessation of hostilities in Myanmar and creation of conditions suitable for voluntary, sustainable, safe and dignified return of Rohingya. We, as Australia, have consistently called on the military regime to create those conditions, and we will continue to do so. But the question about regional partnerships is important. We strongly support ASEAN's leading role in responding to this crisis. ASEAN's efforts remain the most tangible path forward to de-escalate the violence, facilitate the humanitarian access needed, and to support constructive dialogue. We also emphasise, I think, the importance of collective regional efforts through the Bali process to address irregular maritime movements. We need to continue and enhance our advocacy efforts, and we must sustain humanitarian funding for those who are displaced and the communities that are hosting them. We commit to work with others who have joined this pledge and encourage more to join. The humanitarian system, as we know, is under immense pressure, but we cannot lose sight of this crisis in the face of others. The Rohingya a stateless population, and they remain dependent on support from the international community. As others have mentioned, and I certainly saw firsthand in October, the deteriorating conditions in the camps are driving people to make impossible, dangerous choices, and we cannot let our support reduce further. So in support of this pledge, we have committed a further 235 million Australian dollars in humanitarian assistance from 2023 to 2025, which includes support for the Rohingya, support for their host communities in both Rakhine State and Bangladesh, as well as for broader humanitarian needs in Myanmar. This builds on $625 million that we've provided since 2017. But we need to complement that humanitarian assistance, and we need to support interim solutions for Rohingya that build their resilience and self-reliance, as others have spoken to, in order to be able to prepare them for those durable solutions. Education and skills development training are important in achieving this goal, and we welcome Bangladesh's efforts that the Foreign Secretary spoke about in terms of Rohingya children's access to Myanmar curriculum in the camps and access to skills development training. We also want to acknowledge Indonesia's success in allowing refugees to access their national education system, which we support through our development cooperation. We'll continue to explore opportunities to support the Rohingya with skills development training and livelihoods, including through enhanced engagement with the private sector and the exploration of education and employment opportunities for refugees in third countries. Australia has a long history of resettling refugees and people in humanitarian need from around the world, and we announced an increase in our global humanitarian resettlement program to 20,000 places, ensuring that we provide permanent resettlement to those in need, and that will include some Rohingya as part of an internationally coordinated resettlement effort. We're committed to assisting other states to establish and grow refugee resettlement programs and to explore innovative and sustainable complementary pathways as part of another pledge that Australia is leading at the GRF, which includes working with partners and refugee hosting countries to scope and design and implement a train to hire intervention. This will enable support in the Indo-Pacific host countries to gain sought-after skills, improving access to employment and broader complementary pathways. We're also working to support the capacity and integrity of reception and asylum systems in the region. And through other pledges Australia is making at this forum, we acknowledge the importance of meaningful refugee participation, including working with refugee-led organisations, and the absolute necessity to ensure that Rohingya voices are heard in all decisions that affect them. And we will continue to do that beyond today and beyond this forum. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And finally, Judith, I think we met a couple of visits ago to Bangladesh. I just have made that connection, but thank you to the UK for co-hosting the high-level meeting in October we've talked about. I think you have a message from the minister and a couple of remarks before we get to other pledges. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm very pleased to be here on behalf of the UK. And as the Deputy High Commissioner has said, I worked in Bangladesh from 2019 to 2022. It's very good to see familiar faces. And during my many visits to the camps, the Rohingya would tell me of their horrific violence that they experienced in Myanmar 6 years ago and previously, and their daily plight living in the world's largest refugee camp, and their dreams of eventually returning to their homeland. The UK remains firmly committed to supporting the Rohingya as well as their hosting states and to finding long-term solutions. And that's why we are today signing up to the multi-stakeholder GRF pledge on support to the Rohingya. The UK Minister for the Indo-Pacific, Anne-Marie Trevelyan, visited the Cox's Bazar camps earlier this year and was very pleased to have been able to co-convene the UN's high-level event in Bangkok. Unfortunately, she is travelling and can't join us today, so she has sent a message which we will listen to, and then I will very briefly respond to your question.
Good afternoon. I am sorry that I cannot join you in person today. When I met Rohingya refugees during my visit to Bangladesh in March, I heard firsthand about the immense difficulties they face and their feelings of hopelessness. Reports of refugees fleeing the camps to embark on dangerous boat journeys to other countries highlight the terrible situation further. And in Myanmar, the humanitarian crisis is worsening, with over 18 million people in need of humanitarian assistance. The situation for the Rohingya in Rakhine State is grave and has worsened following the resumption of fighting there. So I am grateful for this opportunity to emphasise the UK's determination to support the Rohingya people and the states generously hosting refugees in the region. First, we are committed to humanitarian and development assistance. So today I am glad to pledge an additional £7 million of support, which will provide essential food and cooking fuel in Bangladesh and support the response to the crisis in Myanmar. Since 2017, the UK has provided nearly £30 million to support Rohingya and other Muslim minorities in Rakhine State, and over £373 million to the response in Bangladesh. Second, we will continue to advocate for the rights of the Rohingya, working to end their statelessness in Myanmar in order to quell the cycle of violence. The long-term solution for this crisis remains the safe, voluntary and dignified return of the Rohingya to Rakhine State, once the conditions there allow. Sadly, conditions are not currently conducive for this. Third, as the UN Security Council's penholder on Myanmar, we will keep a sustained focus on the crisis in Bangladesh and Myanmar and maintain pressure on the Myanmar regime. Fourth, we will continue to support international justice and accountability for atrocities committed against the Rohingya in Myanmar. As you will know, the UK, with 5 partner governments, has filed our declaration to intervene in the case at the International Court of Justice, alleging that Myanmar perpetrated genocide. To draw attention to the crisis and indeed to discuss solutions, I was pleased to attend and co-convene the UN's high-level event on Rohingya refugees in October. And lastly, we will continue to provide a platform for Rohingya communities in the UK and across the region to play a full role in shaping the safe and positive future that they deserve. All the while, we will continue to work closely with you, our partners and friends, to achieve that goal. Thank you.
Thank you, Judith. We have 30 minutes left, and I want to get to the 10 speakers that want to make a pledge. Last word.
Very last word, therefore. With the conditions in the camps having deteriorated, including to the point where many don't feel safe, particularly women and girls, it's vital that we carry on partnering to find a better solution for the Rohingya, building hope for the future, including through quality education, working alongside the Rohingya and encouraging them to contribute both their ideas and their hopes for the future. And finally, I'd just like to send my congratulations to the 4 young Rohingya storytellers who won the Asia Regional Nansen Award last night for their work to record the heritage and stories of the Rohingya while in Bangladesh. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Judith. Thank you. Thanks. Rich panel. Lots to communicate, lots to discuss. And I know you all have a lot of questions and things to add. We'll have to continue this afterwards, but I want to go in quick succession to those of you that have indicated that you want to join this multi-stakeholder pledge. And I'm going to begin with Japan. Ambassador Honsai, let's hear from you.
Thank you, Kelly. The Rohingya crisis is one of the biggest humanitarian challenges in Asia. Japan expresses its gratitude to Bangladesh for its continued generosity in accepting and protecting about 1 million displaced persons from Myanmar over the years. We also appreciate the generosity of the other countries who are supporting those who have been forcibly displaced. To tackle this challenge, we need more unity and solidarity, and more equitable burden and responsibility sharing by whole international community. In this regard, it is crucial to bring attention to this prolonged humanitarian crisis. I therefore express my sincere appreciation to the organization of this event for doing that. And we will continuing working together with other stakeholders, donors, international organization, private sector, and civil society. Japan's commitment to support Bangladesh in hosting the forcibly displaced Rohingya will not waver. And taking this opportunity, we pledge to address these issues over the next 4 years with the following commitment. First, we commit to providing assistance, including education and skills training for the displaced Rohingyas to prepare them for their return. Second, we also commit to providing economic and social development assistance, including climate change projects to Bangladesh to help reduce our burden on the host communities. Third, in addition, Japanese private sector has been playing an important role in addressing the situation. So Japanese government commits to continue to enhance collaboration with the sector through a whole of society approach. Further, we should remain committed to realizing a sustainable, safe, and voluntary and dignified repatriation of displaced persons to Myanmar. In order to achieve this goal, it is extremely important to improve the situation in Myanmar, including swift restoration of Myanmar's democratic system. With this in mind, the Japanese government commits to continue to call on Myanmar to take a tangible action to improve the situation. I thank you.
Thank you very much to Japan. Thank you. I'm going to change up the order just to warn because I have a couple of speakers that need to leave before the end. So if you don't mind, I want to call please on Mikael Kohler from ECHO to make the European Union's pledge. Thank you. Thanks for your indulgence.
And apologies to our Thai colleague. Thank you very much, Kelly, for this extremely rich panel that gives the Rohingya issue the visibility that it deserves. And we're going to follow up on this in Brussels at the next European Humanitarian Forum, 18-19 March, where we have a specific panel on the Rohingya issue. So you're all cordially invited. We heard about the rapidly deteriorating situation of the Rohingya, and therefore there's an urgent need to scale up support to meet the refugees' basic needs and stop the escalation of negative activities that show the despair of the Rohingya population, not only the boat journeys and the 400 people now at sea, but also what we sometimes euphemistically call negative scoping strategies like child marriage, drug trafficking, recruitment into armed groups. So there's an urgent need to help in order to make things go in the right direction. Therefore, we want to scale up our support. As you know, the European Union has been quite active on the Rohingya issues, such as other donors and partners that have taken the floor here already. Since 2019, we have committed over 227 million euros for humanitarian aid on the Rohingya crisis, both in Bangladesh and in Myanmar. And obviously this goes in the most important sectors such as food, nutrition, education, wash, and so forth. I've been to the camps myself, both in Cox's Bazar and also in Sitwe in Rakhine State, and I can bear testimony to the need to urgently act there. Therefore, we continue to work also in Myanmar, wherever we have access to the IDP camps there. And we have put aside a special budget, 50 million euros since 2019. It's going to be more in the future. We are very happy, obviously, that in Bangladesh now, the Myanmar curriculum for learning, for studying at school is in implementation. We encourage the government to maintain on this path. Now, regarding the pledge, we are stepping up, as I said, our assistance. We have made a pledge here, and part of this is that we want to put aside 70.5 million euros in order to ensure that Rohingya refugees have access to vital resources such as shelter, food, clean water, healthcare, education. We also want to support the host communities in Bangladesh by investing in gender-sensitive and climate-adapted long-term resilience, both for the host communities and the refugees. We want to continue working with all partners to address the Rohingya crisis with access to quality education, skill development, self-reliance for refugees in Bangladesh. These will stay main priorities. And obviously, it has been said, we need to continue all together, keep advocating for better conditions for Rohingya refugees until they have the possibility of a safe, voluntary, dignified, and sustainable repatriation. We must not forget that this is the ultimate objective, and not, so to say, some remote perspective. If you're interested in the EU offer, just consult the GRF homepage. You have all the dialogue there. Thank you very much, and have a good continuation.
Thank you very much, Michael. Appreciate that. Appreciate all of the support you're putting on the table. Please accept my apologies, Mr. Kongjang from Thailand, important regional partner and neighbor. Let's hear from you.
Thank you, Excellency and distinguished guests. Thailand echoes to call that there is an urgent need to increase humanitarian support for the Rohingya refugee situation. We have long provided assistance to Rohingya fleeing to our country and other parts of the region. Thailand is committed to further relieve the plight of Rohingya. Therefore, in the line with our humanitarian tradition, Thailand pledges to provide assistance to the Rohingya by continuing to provide humanitarian assistance to the Rohingya in Bangladesh in the next 4 years, particularly in the area of capacity and resilience building, through collaboration with the Thai private sector and civil society, and continuing to provide development assistance to Myanmar, particularly in Rakhine State, to enhance preparedness for safe, dignified, and durable returns. Our pledges were formulated on the belief that they will contribute to the better protection of and durable solutions for Rohingya refugees. I thank you.
Thank you very much. Particularly like the link to the Thai private sector. This is excellent. Thank you very much for that pledge. Mr. Kam Morshed, old friend from Brock, an important partner, please.
Thank you. Yeah. Is it okay? We have been there when the Rohingya first started coming in, flooding in 2007, and settled in the mud, drained, drenched. And my one learning from that day and to now is that time doesn't heal the pain of displacement. As Absa was saying, everybody wants to go back. They're not. You cannot just hope that gradually things will be all right. It doesn't happen. Rather, we have seen that the dreams of the Rohingya community have evolved, rightfully so. Uncertainty about the future has grown. Desperation and helplessness has set in. And the outlook seems increasingly bleak. But for the host community as well, who is sharing whatever resources they have with the Rohingyas all these years. And remember, Cox's Bazar is one of the poorest, climate vulnerable and disaster-prone districts of Bangladesh. The impact of the crisis has reached far beyond the 2 sub-districts and affecting much more areas. So in this context, in the livelihood setting, our commitment is, BRAC's commitment is, therefore BRAC commits to develop an inclusive livelihood model which will engage at least one member from 30,000 Rohingya and 15,000 host community household in sustainable self-reliance activity annually from 2024 to 27. We will do so in enabling the Rohingya community to build their skills and gain work experience that they need to sustainably reintegrate when they are able to return home to Myanmar. And also this will give them hope for a brighter future and allow them to lead dignified and productive lives while awaiting solution in the camp, in the other side of the border, exploring and promoting the development of integrated value chains, whereby the both host and the refugee can benefit, and exploring more ways to meaningfully engage private sector through market-based solution, especially in case of Bhashanchor, as the Honorable Secretary was mentioning. In the basic services front, we said in the meantime, while we work to shift away from aid dependency, we need to continue our humanitarian services in order to be sure that people have what they need to survive. Therefore, BRAC pledges to reach 250,000 Rohingya and 650,000 host community members annually from 2024 to 2027, with at least one or more critical basic services, including water, shelter, food, health, education, and protection, if you may. And on the climate front, in order to respond to the urgent climate crisis, which is affecting everyone in Bangladesh, not just the Rohingya or host, BRAC pledges to implement locally led climate adaptation and disaster risk mitigation programs, fostering resilience and reducing climate vulnerability of 75,000 Rohingya and 250,000 host community members in need annually from 2024 to 2027. And BRAC has also been involved in developing a model for localization. Honorable Minister Miller talked about it. This is the localization pool fund. And now, of course, Honorable Beth knows about it. This is also, Australia has joined. We are trying to develop a localization model which really effectively and meaningfully involved the local organization and Rohingya in trying to solve the problem that they're all facing jointly. So this is another commitment of ours. We'd like to create a model which can be replicable in these situations globally. And as a last point, as you might know, we now recently had a collaborative agreement signed with USAID, where we're going to try the same model in non-humanitarian context in Bangladesh. So this is already, we are starting to replicate and test out this model. And thank you to Canada and Australia for their support so that we can at least try this, and it worked so far so good. So thank you again for the opportunity. And as one of the largest NGO in the world, which originated in Bangladesh as a small NGO in 50 years ago, we stand ready with the global community to work with Rohingya and treat them as we treat any human being anywhere in the world. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Marjit. Truly multi-stakeholder, and I like how you were able to weave so many of the partnerships into your pledge. Mr. Peterson from Sweden, Assistant Director General of the Swedish International Development Cooperation Agency. Over to you.
Thank you very much. And thank you for a fantastic panel. For all the reasons you gave, we have decided to join this pledge, of course. Sweden continues to support the efforts, all efforts made to guarantee safe voluntary return home. Meanwhile, we have contributed 90 million so far to the Rohingyas and host communities in Bangladesh. In joining this pledge, we have decided on 4 specific pledges where we will increase our support the coming year. The first one is we pledge to enhance the resilience of Rohingya refugees and vulnerable Bangladeshi host communities through more meaningful access to livelihood, development, and education opportunity. We pledge to increase our support to strengthen resilience of Rohingya refugees and vulnerable Bangladeshi host communities to withstand and adapt to the impact of climate change. And we pledge to improve the access to high quality healthcare and medical care for vulnerable communities, including Rohingya populations in Bangladesh, Cox's Bazar district and Myanmar's Rakhine state. In addition to this, we are going to continue our humanitarian and financial support, which will increase in 2024. We hope others will follow, as many of the panels wished for. We certainly do. And that will be something we carry out in collaboration with our local partners, predominantly in the area. So thank you very much again.
Thank you very much. Thank you for joining this pledge. And turning to China, Ambassador Xu, over to you, please, Permanent Representative to the United Nations here in Geneva.
Thank you very much, Moderator. I'm very glad to be part of this important event. I wish to thank the panelists and the previous speakers for their contributions. The worsening situation in Rohingya refugee camps calls for more humanitarian support and assistance. China appreciates the endeavor by the UNHCR and other UN bodies for their positive contribution in this regard. China has offered multiple batches of emergency humanitarian assistance over the years. In recent days, China sent another batch of $1.5 million medical materials, such as health kits, which will benefit over 60,000 Rohingya women and girls in Bangladesh. The displaced people are longing to return to their homes, and the cause of the UNHCR deserves serious attention of us all. We need to work together to lend a helping hand to the displaced people and the host community as well. So I hope this event will build up the momentum from the previous exercise, and China is in close communication with both Bangladesh and Myanmar, and it supports the two countries to overcome difficulties and work towards the same direction, with a view to the realization of repatriation at an early date. It is gratifying to note that Bangladesh and Myanmar has displayed political wills when it started the repatriation process and reached a couple of important common understandings. We wish to see this momentum could be sustained and key steps could be taken to produce real results. We hope that the international community would have more understanding to the realities and the difficulties in the process and render more support to both Bangladesh and Myanmar so as to help the displaced people return to their homes as soon as possible. And of course, in a stable and a steady and a sustainable manner. The Rohingya issue involves complex historical, ethnic, and religious factors. It needs to be addressed with urgency. In the meantime, the root causes of the issue needs to be taken care of as well. We need to pay more attention and give more support to poverty alleviation and development in the region, so as to tackle the issue in a more comprehensive and broad-based way. China stands ready to play its role and work together with all the others concerned in this respect. Thank you very much, Moderator.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. Appreciate that. I'm particularly pleased to introduce the next speaker, Mitsu Shippey, who is the Senior General Manager of Sustainable Department at Sony, who I met in May, and we talked about the Rohingya and we talked about the needs there that are so dire. So we're so pleased to see you here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and I'm very honored to be here today. So since 2001, Sony has been providing support to UNHCR and forcibly displaced persons through financial and in-kind contributions, support awareness raising, and other means. And we recently signed a partnership with UNHCR to continue and expand our support in two key ways. So first, provide financial support to improve access to health and WASH. Refugees are among the most vulnerable to infectious diseases and are more likely to suffer from poor health and nutrition. These vulnerabilities were only worsened by the COVID-19 crisis. So over the next 3 years, Sony is contributing $6 million from its Global Relief Fund for COVID-19 to help refugees access to health, clean and safe water, sanitation, and hygiene in Bangladesh and other regions. Second, we will explore how our expertise and technology can support UNHCR amplify or scale up the impact of their services and solutions, improve access to quality health care, and strengthen activities such as hygiene and nutrition promotion, disease surveillance, early detection, and health response. And finally, we will also support efforts to raise awareness about the situation of forcibly displaced persons worldwide, especially in Bangladesh, and help shape positive narrative about the refugees communities. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Shippey. Appreciate that. Very concrete and very helpful. To the Philippines now, Dennis Chan, who's the Chief State Counsel.
Thank you, Kelly, and to the organizers for giving Philippines the opportunity to give its intervention. Since the pilot implementation of the Philippines Complementary Pathways Program, we have been able to provide tertiary education for Rohingya refugees, a realization of the pledge we made in 2019. We are again pledging to continue to scale up this program to benefit more students and to continue to look after their well-being, including through providing mental health and psychosocial support. We understand the challenges faced by Rohingya, as well as the host countries in our region. We are hopeful that our small contribution can be something that can be replicated across the world. Within our borders, we envision to leverage more collaboration with private and international partners whose contributions would allow us to take in more Rohingya students. We are also looking at opportunities after graduation. Ultimately, our aspiration is for the Rohingya scholars to be self-reliant and for their education to open more doors and opportunities for them. Thank you.
Fabulous, fabulous, fabulous. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Chan. And now to Germany, the Director General, Ms. Potzel from the we have them on both directions, from the German Federal Foreign Office.
Yeah, thank you so much, and thanks for having us. Allow me to first of all thank the government and the people of Bangladesh for their hosting of displaced Rohingya. Their hospitality saved an untold number of lives, and a big thank you goes out to you. We follow, of course, the developments in the camps with great concern. The dire security situation makes some refugees attempt dangerous crossings to Indonesia, for instance, as also our American colleague here just said already. The majority of Rohingya, we know, have expressed a desire to return home, to return to Myanmar when conditions for a voluntary, safe, dignified, and sustainable return are met. While every refugee has a right to return to their home country based on an informed choice, no refugee should be forced to do so in unsafe conditions. Germany remains in solidarity with the displaced Rohingya population and Bangladesh as a host country. We have provided nearly 12 million euro in humanitarian assistance in 2023 alone, which brings us since 2017 to 100 million in humanitarian assistance and another 175 million in development aid to Rohingya and host communities. And as one of the biggest donors in SERF, of course, we are also through SERF engaged in further assistance. While most of the assistance, humanitarian assistance, goes to the big players like UNHCR and WFP, localization is also key to us. And that is why we are also supporting a localization project called Together, and this is an invitation to join us in this, a project to strengthen capacities of local actors in humanitarian assistance, coordination, and advocacy. And I also want to highlight another project that is very close to our hearts, which we support, called Putting Persons with Disabilities at the Center of Humanitarian Preparedness and Response. And again, happy to get your support in this as well. And let me also underline that in November, Germany also joined the court proceedings against Myanmar at the ICC, a project, again, extremely important to us. Ladies and gentlemen, I pledge here that Germany will stay committed in its humanitarian engagement and in its humanitarian diplomacy for the Rohingya people. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Deika. And I wonder if the Together initiative might be combined with the localization initiative mentioned by Canada. Sounds very similar, very helpful. Okay, we have two more speakers. I'm just going to warn the panel here. We're running out of time, but I want one last word or message after those two speakers based on what you've just heard. Yep. Okay, to the World Bank now, old friend Carolyn Sargent.
Thank you very much. And I bring greetings from the World Bank team in Bangladesh. They're very sorry they couldn't be here today with you. Thank you, Kelly, and all the panelists for your very pertinent remarks and for this high-level event today. Most importantly, we'd like to thank the government of Bangladesh and the people of Bangladesh for hosting over 1 million Rohingyas for so many years. And we want to acknowledge the efforts of Bangladesh for keeping them safe. I also want to say how humbled I am by you, Hafsa, and the team at EPRIN. Your voices are key as we think through, as we work towards solutions. As the Minister of Foreign Affairs noted earlier, the World Bank has helped Bangladesh to support host communities and refugees in the Cox's Bazar district since 2017, to the tune of around $590 million. We appreciate in developing that program all the cooperation we've had with UNHCR and all the other partners in these efforts. Our support, as you know, is focused on addressing the socioeconomic impacts of the crisis for both host communities and refugees, and we continue to stand ready to help and support. The second phase of this Rohingya support program is currently being negotiated and developed in Bangladesh currently with our teams, and it will provide either resources to the amount of around 700 million from the window for host communities and refugees to support basic services provision, small-scale climate resilient infrastructure development. We will also continue our analytical work, and especially on the analysis of Bangladesh's short and medium-term costs and risks. And we've been working closely with colleagues here in Geneva recently, precisely on this point. We are aiming to start implementation of this in the summer of 2024. And we look forward to working closely with government partners, agencies, multilateral and bilateral partners to support hosting communities and the Rohingya in Bangladesh going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Carolyn. And finally, UNDP.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. And also UNHCR, especially for convening this session, and all the distinguished speakers for your very thoughtful remarks. UNDP is highly committed to support this multi-stakeholder pledge on the Rohingya refugees. In Bangladesh, UNDP's focus is working with the government and partners to strengthen the resilience of Rohingya refugees and host communities, especially to withstand and adapt to the impacts of climate change. Our pledge focuses on 3 priorities. The first one is to expand our climate advocacy and education with local governments, targeting more than 300,000 people in contingency planning and early warning in the next few years. Secondly, to strengthen disaster risk reduction and mitigation in vulnerable areas in Cox's Bazar through environment and ecosystem rehabilitation and watershed management. Thirdly, UNDP is committing to build resilience of local authorities in risk-informed planning and enhanced protection of communities and social cohesion through strengthening rule of law and governance. This includes establishing a community policing forum mechanism and to increase capacity of district police for comprehensive investigation of gender-based violence cases. In Myanmar, UNDP and UNHCR and partners are committed to laying a foundation for conditions conducive to voluntary, safe, and sustainable return through joint quick impact interventions on creating livelihoods, community enterprises, and promoting social cohesion. We believe that breaking the cycle of crisis is crucial. Ladies and gentlemen, as we have heard, displaced Rohingyas are not only today's refugees, but are also tomorrow's returnees. We need to invest in refugees, in host communities, in sustainable solutions, together with civil society, while we continue our immediate support to displaced Rohingyas wherever they are and as agents of change. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Important partner, UNDP. Okay, rapid fire. Judith, we're going to start with you and work down your word or sentence to leave.
Thank you. The importance of recognising the generosity of the Bangladesh government and people and all they've done, the outstanding performance of UNHCR and all the other partners on the ground, and the importance going forward of listening both to the government, but centrally the concerns of the Rohingya, and then trying to find a solution that works for everybody. I know that's idealistic, but we have to put the people at the centre of this. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Assistant Secretary Delaney.
Thank you. There'll be common themes. I think reiterating the importance of partnerships, collective action, responsibility sharing, but also the importance of listening to the voices of Rohingya in the decisions, the programs, and all the support that we provide.
Thank you so much. Hafsar.
Just want to repeat the same thing that I said, to acknowledge our ability to be the equal partners in responding Rohingya issues, as well as to continuously make your kind effort to the inclusion and making informed consultation with us in exploring comprehensive and sustainable solution for us, and also to view us as the active agents of change from passive recipients of assistance. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
One word, solidarity.
Minister.
As a politician, my political life and death depends on fulfilling promises. And when we don't, we justly get fired. Once every 4 years, but more often in Canada every 2 years now. But this is about people's real life and their potential death if we don't fulfill our promises. So we made a lot of promises. Let's get them done.
Thank you so much. Well said. And Ambassador, last word to you.
Certainly, based on the need for realization of the commitments and the pledges, that's the most important thing. But while we do so, we should be doing things in a manner that we try to put the Rohingyas at the center. We must create the conducive atmosphere. It doesn't come automatically. Seeing things from the Rakhine side and the Myanmar side for over 4 years, I can tell you how despicable the situation is. And the situation will not change automatically. We have to create conducive atmosphere. So we have to invest time, energy, money, and our efforts in creating that condition in Myanmar side of the border while we try to maintain them in a better shape in the Bangladesh side. And finally, I would say that we need to do everything right to keep them safe, ignite hope, and restore their respect.
Oh, very, very well said. Thank you. And for me, Hafsar's earlier comments still ring true. That if we give refugees, Rohingya, the tools, they can support themselves. They should be the guiding light for us. And we need to work very hard on making real all this wonderful work that we've talked about this afternoon. Thanks and much appreciation for all of you being here this afternoon. If you are inspired and did not speak, please see the smart colleagues around the room. They will take your pledges, your contributions, your commitments, and the work starts tomorrow. Thank you.